Wes, thank you for that countdown. No one else can hear. And thanks to all of you for coming in. It's Monday night. It's Living Force night. It is Visions time. It's going to be a spoiler-filled talk all about Star Wars Visions, the first 4 episodes. We got a little bit of news. We got a lot of chatting about the latest Star Wars project. But of course, we also got some punch in it.
Me too.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Living Force, a Utini Network podcast, all about the greatest things in Star Wars. That's it. That's the drop, and that's our name. Don't wear it out for legal reasons. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight to talk all things Star Wars Visions, at least the first half, is the full cast of characters that, frankly, I haven't talked to as much this week as I usually do. So let's start with Dr. Corey Helton.
What up?
How's
what
your
up?
week, dude? I
It's
feel
good,
like
man.
we just haven't talked all week.
I know. I had some annual leave this past weekend. We went down to Savannah, Georgia. My wife got a tattoo with her sister that she's been dreaming about for a while. It looks super cool.
Gorgeous. It's so pretty.
It's like a stork with like a red sun. It looks really sick. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
So had some fun. We went to a drag show down in Savannah. That was a lot of fun. Like, had some drinks. It was a good time. Good time.
And didn't you pick up a very specific drink? Hashtag not a sponsor.
Oh yeah.
What
yes,
drink
I did. I was like, I panicked for a second. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Every time I go to Georgia, I have to get my favorite beer, which is Tropicalia by Creature Comforts, and I'm drinking some now. So I'm glad to have picked it up. It's my favorite
Look
beer on
at
the planet.
that.
So Thor
And
drinks
fun
it in
fact.
the Avengers movie.
There it is. Thank you. But that's like the Aragorn broke his toe in this scene. Like you
That's
always
right.
have to say that every time we talk about it.
That's right.
But also who is here and is not, in fact, watching preseason basketball, which is a huge part of his life. Dr. Charles Hankel. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, you guys should feel so honored that I'm here instead of watching Miami's first preseason game. We were looking pretty bad in the late first quarter there. So that's why I'm here, really. I didn't go to any drag shows. I didn't get any of my favorite beers, but I'm here, and I'm happy to chat Visions.
Well, that's good. You know, we can't all have wonderful weekends of growth and excitement unless, of course, we are standing in the presence of Wes Jenkins, which is constant enlightenment.
Hello, everyone. I would like to inform you all, as I informed you about 2 weeks ago, that another cold front is running through Houston.
Oh,
and
no.
It's going to be 68 degrees tonight.
Shut
Can you
up,
believe
Wes.
it?
God
I
almighty.
swear. Look,
Wes,
I can't wait to go outside and not sweat at 9 p.m.
as they would say on TikTok, because of the rules and regulations, unalive yourself, Wes.
Okay.
So anyway,
Caitlin has
God, that
Caitlin has
threw me.
texted me from a separate room and said it's not an effing stork, it's a heron. Get it right. So
it's a
you know,
heron.
yes, and, I knew that too. I don't know
Alright.
why I said stork. So why the hell
You
would you
felt
get
it, man.
a stork like the
It
baby?
has long
with the-
legs like a stork.
Well, you know
You got
who
it.
might want to get a stork tattoo is one of our team members.
Look at that transition.
We wanted to give a very, very special Living Force and a full Utini shout out to Emily Daybeck, one of our Legends Look Back hosts. And if you watched last week's Legends Look Back, you know exactly why. Last week's show was a lot of fun. Legends Look Back hosts decided to play a game where they would get to know each other, 2 truths and a lie style. It's on our YouTube channel and on your podcast providers. But if you were listening, then you know Emily used that game to reveal her actual pregnancy. One of the coolest moments in UTD history. So, Emily, congrats on, one, the great content. Thanks for those likes. But also, congratulations on your upcoming stork present of your own. Guys, we can't top that this week.
No.
I think we just got to own that. Unless there's something I don't know that you guys are going to slide into our Talk About Tatooine Rhapsody.
No.
All right, fine. But another cool thing that happened last week was the return of a beloved Utini segment with some technical upgrades. Wes, what did you do Friday night?
This past Friday, UTD Game Nights came back after about a month hiatus. I played a little Battlefront, and we were able to see some behind the scenes stuff that Corey was able to open the pocketbook on and provide to me. We now have a floating command center where everybody can
amazing.
where everybody can see the buttons and dials, where all the magic happens for the video gaming world. And there's also a sweet viewport that we built with the scraps from Corey's trailer build.
Yep, very
you might wanna
helpful.
check that out. There's some unknown woman that's staring out that viewport that hasn't spoken to any of us, but hopefully one day I'll get to know her name. So yeah, UTD Game Nights is
I
back.
have no idea what that's in reference to.
You gotta watch.
You gotta watch the show. So UTD Game Nights is back. Up on most nights, Friday nights, if I'm not gone hunting, I will be here gaming. So, which may be this coming Friday. I'll make sure everybody is aware, send it out on Discord and put a tweet out on Friday, let you know when UTD Game Nights is back. I'll throw up a different Star Wars game and we'll get various people playing like Emma and Andrew. They'll fly in whenever they need to relieve me. But for now, Friday nights, UTD Game Night, make sure we put it on your schedule.
There you go. I love it. It was so much fun. It was the best way to start the weekend. And Charles, you had a particularly rough night shift that I know Wes helped you through with that game night.
Seriously, that game night is just about the only thing that got me through that shift. And the space socks that were no shows. That's like my favorite moment probably of the whole stream. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch it.
That's right. They allowed me to hover over the planet. They're special no-show space socks. So yes, again, just go ahead and check it out. It's a good one.
It's absolutely beautiful. Love that it's back. One thing I don't love, though, that I'm starting to hate, frankly, every week, is the UTD Fantasy Update. This is the quick just thing where I want to say that I lost to our very own Jacob Spice Dad himself by a single point last week. So Mason Crosby, hate you. Just straight up, not because you're a Packer, but because you just made me feel sad and you embarrassed me in front of my friends. And this week, I also will lose again. So that's fun. But as I said in our pre-show, the only person who has less points than me is Wes. So Wes, I appreciate you taking that bullet for me, unless someone explodes tonight. So
I was busy doing UTD Game Nights, Eric. I wasn't setting my lineup.
You know what? And the sad thing is, Wes, I was. I intentionally set a lineup. I listen to 5 hours of podcasts every week about fantasy football. I watch every game, and I'm so bad this year. Oh, anyway, that's it. James somehow lost Christian McCaffrey and still won. So whatever. Moving on to something much happier. Oh, hold on. Quick shout out to what Gavin said in the chat, because we like some sports things. A shout out to the Mariners, who did lose yesterday, but are maybe making the playoffs. I found out this is a real thing. I don't. This might. If skip it like 15 seconds ahead if you don't want something that's like somewhat graphic. Apparently, the Seattle Mariners in their history have more ruptured testicles than they do playoff appearances. So it's 5-4. So just so you know. Sorry, Seattle.
They were one game away. They needed either Boston or New York to lose, and they needed to win.
Just a hell of a statistic.
To have a chance.
So that stat remains. Moving on to the people that I think already regret what they've done, which is people that give us money on our Patreon. We want to give a huge, ridiculously large thank you and shout out to Earl Q, who has joined our Jedi High Council. That is our top tier of Patreon that has pushed us closer and ever closer to our Attack of the Clones commentary, which are ridiculously excited to do. Earl definitely got us a large part of the way there. I believe we're like $25, something away from that. So if you've been waiting, this is the time to join Patreon. You got to check it out. And of course, there's always new rewards being built behind the scenes. Get in touch with Timothy, our Patreon manager, who is always trying to find out what we want to do. This week, actually, there will be a survey on Patreon to talk about our Rogue One watch party or commentary. because we've realized that we've gotten a lot of great feedback on our Phantom Menace commentary, and as fun as watch parties are, they're kind of one and done. So if you actually want us to do a commentary instead that you can kind of have, look for that survey coming on Patreon this very week. All right, Charles, we have a patron of the week who I believe is in the chat right now.
Awesome. Yeah, our patron of the week this week is Gavin. And Gavin says, howdy, my name is Gavin, popping up as Super Nerd Gavin on YouTube and Discord sometimes. I'm from Texas, but currently living in Bellingham, Washington. I grew up around Star Wars content, watched Clone Wars, and played some of the games, but I didn't actually sit down and watch the original trilogy until a few years ago when I was 16. It wasn't until this year in January when I read Heir to the Empire, my first Star Wars book, then no more until this August when I started to read more with Dark Force Rising and Light of the Jedi. I have now read 17 Star Wars books and am currently starting Wraith Squad.
Wow.
Ooh.
Despite how much I've been in love with the book so far, my favorite story is not from a book nor the films. Jedi Fallen Order is hands down my favorite Star Wars story and experience. Cal Kestis, despite sort of being Ginger Kanan, is a wonderful character who you can see go through his great trauma
What a great
and slowly build
description.
himself back up. Using the video game element of getting better abilities throughout is an ingenious way of showing someone building themselves back up from trauma while also just using cool-ass Force abilities. It's also just has some of the most cool and fun moments of Star Wars for me, which I have to have control over in some aspect. Just some fascinating lore aspects I hope we see again someday. My dive into the books led me to Utini, but the specific thing that brought me here was the foundational 5 books. I enjoyed them and then noticed there was a Discord. After joining the Discord, I quickly realized how warm and welcoming this community was. I was welcomed readily and everyone was so kind. I've created a group of friends and people to support me along my Star Wars EU journey, and it's been a blast to come in and talk about my experience as I read and create conversations from it. This, of course, led me to want to support Utini through Patreon. This community is so fantastic, and I'm grateful to have discovered it. Being here has given my Star Wars nerdiness somewhere to belong and thrive. My question for the Living Force hosts is, if you could create a Star Wars game, what genre would it be and what characters would you use? For example, I would do a multiplayer action adventure game with the Ghost Crew from Rebels. It would have action elements like Fallen Order, but also shooter elements akin to something like Battlefront or Jedi Knight. My idea would be to follow the crew along on their missions, but have the ability to play as different characters in the crew for different gameplay styles. So you could have someone doing a flight mission as Hera, while someone is shooting as Sabine, with melee players as the Jedi or Zeb, and of course, chopper mode. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for letting me have this opportunity this week. Have a fantastic night and a great show. I appreciate y'all and all of Utini. May the Force be with you. And Gavin, I appreciate you. And how many times you said y'all in that, it made me feel right at home.
Yeah.
Damn straight.
For the fellow Texan Wesley here.
Damn straight.
Man, also, I love that game idea. It sounds like the Guardians of the Galaxy game that's coming out a little bit. I would love a Ghost Crew game. More Rebels in everything would be ideal, obviously.
There's a lot of good stuff in here. Jedi Fallen Order. Have you guys played that
Yep.
more than once? I've still only played it the one time. It's been on my
I only
list.
played
of
it
what to do.
once.
Every time I think about replaying it, as much as I loved it, I like have like flashbacks to that stupid map and all the rotation you do on Zephos.
Zepho.
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 Amazing Zepho.
It's just like and that's
Oh
what
my
holds me back
gosh.
every single time. I just
Yep.
that image of that map, trying to figure out how to navigate that damn planet.
That was so hard.
Oh,
I'm
man.
also horrible at replaying or rereading anything. So I'm like, there's so many things to play and do. And then I just play Halo for like 5 hours and I'm like, worth it. That was fine.
Yeah, I'm on my second playthrough right now. It's been a while since I've had it on Utini Game Night, but that's one of their on the rotation is
Look at
Jedi
that.
Fallen Order. So I haven't got to like one of the actual very hard bosses yet. So it's probably a good thing. I probably lose all kinds of viewers. They're just like, oh, again and again, you're gonna try again and again. It's the same thing over and over again. Like, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
I get it.
Let's see. So if we had to pick a game, though, we've talked a couple on here, but what's a game we'd want? Because I mean, Charles, obviously you want the 4K remaster of the pod racing game from episode 1. Easy.
I didn't even have to say it. Thank you for saving my breath. But specifically, I want to say this. I want I don't want a remaster of the pod racer game. I want a new pod racing game, and I want to be able to create your racer and like upgrade your pod, and you got to race through all the circuits and I wanted to be story driven, where there's like you do all the races, but there's a whole story you progress through. I think that'd be great.
Like an open world in between the races. And that'd be
You
nuts.
like have your
That
own,
would be
little
cool.
greasy garage, and like you have your pit crew and all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that'd
Yeah.
be cool. And
I have an immediate answer. I
Go.
want an open world bounty hunter game. I've been saying that
13.
forever. 1313 looked very interesting when they were developing that, and I still will say that one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time was Bounty Hunter. Like I remember playing it on the PS2 back in the day, and that game was so fun. You played as Jango Fett. And it was fun and hard, and I can just imagine like I don't really know how to do this yet, but I would really like to see like some kind of multiplayer aspect, right? I mean, open world games like Assassin's Creed, Jedi Fallen Order, that stuff is really fun, but it is sort of missing that social aspect, and I don't know, it might be
Yeah.
hard to like get in there, and like we have some FPS games, right? Like that are Star Wars that are kind of social and stuff, but I don't know. We don't have anything where you can have like crafting and like I don't know
Yeah.
guilds and some of those MMO components. I think would be really fun.
yeah, maybe like a Red Dead Redemption multiplayer kind of thing that mixes the two.
Yeah,
that'd be
something
cool.
like that. Something like that. Where there's
Yeah.
other people running around, maybe. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, that might be fun.
I definitely want a either RPG or like just regular action game. Play a Jedi. I don't want to start as a Padawan, but I want the game to be in like multiple acts. Where, like you do your little Padawan thing, and then you finish that act of the game. Then there's a time jump, and then you're an apprentice going out on missions with your master. And then there's a time jump, and you're a Jedi Knight doing your own thing. And then there's a time jump, and then you're a master of your own. So you get to kind of play this character through their whole life.
And there's a time
would love
jump, and
that.
you're a Force ghost.
Yeah, and then you're just chilling and hanging out.
Strike
forever.
me down, and I will become more powerful than you ever imagined. Then he does. Then you're the Force Ghost for like 3 minutes, and you just realize there's nothing to do, so the game ends.
Yep. And
And
then
you
it
just
says
walk
press
around
X
the
to
credits.
vibe, and you're like, all right.
I was thinking that I would like a battle royale. So basically, just take Call of Duty Warzone and give it a Star Wars skins, and that's what I want because I'm obsessed with that game right now.
Well, I can
can't
dig
stop
that.
playing it. A whole
Yeah,
bunch
I mean-
of different attachments for your blasters, and you can have different pieces to your lightsaber, much like we saw in Visions, where you can make your
Oh.
lightsaber.
I want an
different
I
tool.
want an M-rated Star Wars game, right? Like
Yeah.
I want Battlefront except rated
Careful.
M, so it's really violent and
Yeah.
you know.
You're the guy. You're the nerds that were on Reddit that are like, "Where's the dismemberments in Fallen Order?" Like,
Essentially, yes.
absolutely. Love that. Well, I mean, hey, if you're into gaming news, there's always talks about these new Star Wars games that keep getting leaked that have been working on. So I would bet we're gonna hear something, either Celebration or E3 next year about the next project. So Gavin, stay tuned, and all of us stay tuned to see if we're right. All right, now let's hit it with a little bit of Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
It's the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
Speaking of bounty hunters, speaking of upcoming projects, speaking of release dates, we got one that incorporates all three of those. Y'all, we got finally the right under the wire Book of Boba Fett release date. Throw that beautiful poster on the screen. Oh my God, look at that king on his throne. He's going to start episode 1, December 29th.
Wow.
Guys, I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be next year. I thought it was going to get pushed.
Yeah, I really did too.
Yeah.
I mean, they said for sure it's definitely going to be 2021, and I mean, they didn't lie to us technically,
didn't lie.
but December 29th is about as late as you can possibly push
Yeah.
it. So I'm excited by that, though. I mean,
yeah.
it's right at New Year's. Like a lot of times, folks have got the day off for New Year's and stuff. I mean, I don't personally. I know Charles probably doesn't either.
Do people get hurt on New Year's Eve? Is that a bad time for hospitals? Are just want to drug people with explosives?
Bad shift. It's
right.
the only thing that's worse than that is July 4th.
That is correct.
I used to have these fingers, and now I don't.
No, but
put
the
'em back
holiday
on, right?
release is a ton of
Yeah.
fun, though.
Yeah.
It's like just one more thing in the happy times that are the holidays. It's like just an extra little holiday. We get our own little Star Wars holiday in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
But that's true. Like a lot of people take off on the last week of December, and so you'll have plenty of time to sit down with your family and watch Book of Boba Fett. So what's the release schedule? Is it going to be one
I'm
episode a
guessing
week?
Wednesdays. I think it's going to be one a week. I think Mandalorian has proven that they take over popular culture when they're on. Like
Yeah.
For
the
sure.
weekly schedule just have, I mean, us nerds are doing podcasts about it, and, you know, people think about it for so long, as opposed to Stranger Things, which I love, is like awesome for like 2 weeks, and then people like totally move on to something
I know.
else.
Yeah, there is that weird sense of like FOMO, I think, when if you haven't binge watched the entire series, right? And
Yeah.
like you're right, it's only like 2 or 3 weeks is all that people talk about stuff like that. So I'm excited about this. I mean, this is I don't know what this is going to be about, right? I mean, it's got a lot of potential though, a lot of potential to bring in some of the crime stuff. I mean, Kira, it'd be sick if she could maybe be in it, or some of that
that'd be
underworld
so
stuff would be
awesome.
great. So I'm really jacked about that.
We know it's Bubba, we know it's Fennec Shand, we know we got some criminal elements, and we don't know how many episodes. I don't think. Yell in the chat if we're wrong. We're gonna guess again. 8 to 12 has been kind of the constant for these live action shows.
Any wishes or speculation, I guess, from you guys that you'd really like to see? You know, all
I mean,
managing your
Kira,
expectations and
goddamn,
stuff,
man.
of course. But yeah,
That'd be great.
We do know who's not going to be on that show is Bib Fortuna.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true.
yeah.
Unless
That's
it's like the
absolutely true.
opening shot.
Yeah.
I would really like to. I would really like to see some kind of flashback or something and learn how Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit. I think that would be.
Yep,
That would be cool.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. Kind of see what the aftermath of, you know, what the power vacuum with the death of Jabba created after Return of the Jedi. That might be
Yeah.
fun. So I mean, we're 10 years after Return of the Jedi. So, you know,
Something like that. Yeah.
really good opportunities for some storytelling here. So I'm excited.
We'll get some
man.
cool new like villains, I think. I mean, and I'm actually wearing this shirt very accidentally today, but I think maybe Cobb Vanth. I mean, they're on Tatooine.
Yeah,
Like I think
that's true.
you know, he shows up and he's got the armor from him, so maybe he's like, oh, I have one friend left on Tatooine, and it's
Yeah.
like, hey, it's me with my perfect hair and absolute hotness. What can I do for you? It's like, hi.
I would actually be kind of surprised if they do show us on screen how he was able to get out of the Sarlacc pit. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
they want to leave it up to speculation. They may say
so.
it like they may say how he got out, but they're not going to show it. I don't
Yeah.
think they're
Yeah.
going to show it.
Yeah, Fennec's like, so how'd you escape anyway? And then he looks out of the ship and just like,
Sure will.
yeah, it was something like that. Like, he was strong, but I was hungrier, or some whatever, you know. It'll be
2 jetpacks. I didn't have just one.
my father Jango Fett always told me to have a backup jetpack, so I had a second
Oh, that'd be
jetpack.
so bad.
Oh man. I will
but
say
yes.
if you had told me 10 years ago that we were going to get a Boba Fett live action TV show, I would have thought that's the dumbest leak I've ever heard. There's no way in
Yep.
hell that's ever going to happen. Like
Yep.
crazy times we live in, man. Super excited.
As a
Boba Fett
spin-off
is one of
of
my
a
favorite
series.
characters too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a spin-off of a series with previously unknown characters.
that's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one.
Right.
It's just so exciting. We will absolutely be bringing back Bounty Hunt for that if it's the weekly release. And yeah, just get super stoked. And that if it's coming out in December, that means we'll probably get a trailer around Thanksgiving would be my guess. Maybe they'll release it at halftime of one of those Thanksgiving football games as they want to do.
Yeah.
But other things that are out now, this week showed us the release of Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales, somehow the second Lego holiday special we've gotten in a year. And this insane poster, that's it. Did you guys watch this? Did you guys
I
watch
have
this
not
week?
seen this, but I have heard good things about it.
Yeah, I have not
saving
either.
it.
All right.
Yeah,
It's
saving it for
remarkably
October
silly.
31st.
That's
It
right.
is
I am.
so fun. It is so silly. As they showed in the trailer, it does have Ren, the Charles Soule character, which is wild to see. Technically a book character, right? And yeah, if you like the holiday one, you're gonna like this one. If you like the Vader's Castle stories that Kevin Scott's been doing, you're gonna like it. If you have 40 minutes and you have a heart that wants a bit of laughter, you're gonna like it. It's just a blast to watch. I watched it like in the morning over my coffee when it came out, so highly recommend that. It's on Disney Plus right now. Go check that out.
Are there
And
a lot of references? I gotta ask. Are there? Because like that poster is a reference to The Shining.
Oh, to like classic horror stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a decent amount of them. I am not a horror aficionado, so I there's probably a lot that I didn't catch on that I'm sure Alex Damon probably already has a video about that you can probably see. But yeah, they do a good job homaging classic horror, bringing in some new Star Wars characters. There's a great like Luke Ben Solo moment that's just really funny. And yeah, it's very much the classic horror anthology. So, you know, make your cocoa or your pumpkin spice or whatever your night Halloween drink is and cozy up under a blanket and watch it. It's just a blast. But if you want another fun thing to do and you don't want to watch our show next week, which is fine, we do want to say next Monday, the 11th, on the Nerdist YouTube channel at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is exactly when this show airs. Author Emma Candon of Star Wars Ronin, next to me here, will be having an author event with Lucasfilm Senior Creative Executive Matt Martin and our very own editor Tom from Del Rey. They'll be doing a video kind of what do they call it? Like a panel-esque interview thing with Emma. They're partnering with the bookstore Mysterious Gallery, which will have access to autographed copies of Ronin. So if you somehow haven't pre-ordered this book that comes out next week, or if you have and you just want an autographed copy and didn't get the Goldboro edition, tune in to Nerdist next Monday at this exact time. Check out the questions. They're going to interview Emma. They're going to get all kinds of information about the book. And Tom and Matt are also always such a blast to watch. So if you need more Ronin in your life and you want to miss us for it, next Monday, tune in. And of course, if you're looking to buy Ronin, or if you're looking to buy Thrawn Ascendancy Lesser Evil, which come out on October 12th and November 16th, respectively, check out our new releases page over at Youtini.com. Get those affiliate links to Bookshop, to Amazon, to Books A Million, to whatever you want to do, whoever you want to support. Go check that out. And a massive thank you to Frank and all of our friends that keep up that database. All right, Charles, I want you to read our first book review. We have 2 this week.
Yeah, I can do that. The first one here is from Moonflyer, who read Thrawn by Timothy Zahn and gave it 5 stars. It says just as good as the original. My first introduction to Thrawn was in 1991's Heir to the Empire. He's such a great villain. I was happy to see him brought back for Rebels a few years ago. I have been avoiding this book because I didn't want to compare it to the original, but as I worked my way through the Youtini reading order, I decided to give the audiobook, read by fan favorite Mark Thompson, a shot, and OMG, I was hooked from the first chapter. I love the cast of characters Zahn builds around Thrawn, especially Eli. He makes you forget you're actually reading about the bad guys in this book sometimes. I don't know why I put this book off for so long, but I'm excited to get into the next 2 parts of this unofficial trilogy. So yeah, I mean, the first Thrawn book is, I think, one of the favorites of a lot of the staff. And the next 2 were not as highly rated, but still, they're enjoyable. And they help to kind of frame things for if and when, I'm assuming, you get to the Ascendancy trilogy.
Yeah. Definitely some good some precursors there, especially with the last 2 entries into the Ascendancy trilogy. And Corey, I know this was one of your favorite books overall when we first started this thing. We had a lot of releases back then. Is this still up there?
Yeah, this definitely is still up there. And, you know, I've been trying to think about my next book I want to listen to. You know, I've been doing all this trailer work and I have a bunch of painting ahead of me. So you guys know how I have talked about painting is like my favorite audiobook task because it's so menial, right? I finished Darth Plagueis recently. I did finish Tarkin last week too.
Oh, nice.
And I need another audiobook to listen to. So I've been thinking of actually going back and listening to Thrawn again. So because I knew this is one of my, it has been, you know, I would currently probably at this moment say this is in my top 5 favorite Star Wars books. So I've been thinking about going back and listening to this again because I love this. It's a great origin story. So.
It's so good. And for your Rebels fans, we talked about Rebels earlier, got a little bit of Governor Price. If you want to see how she got there. It's S. We got a second one. Go for it.
All righty. So our patron of the week, Gavin, has written a review over X-Wing Rogue Squadron by Michael Stackpole. He gave it 3 stars. Peer pressure gave me a pretty good read. So I began reading Star Wars books at the beginning of this year with Heir to the Empire. After getting into that amazing trilogy, I joined the Discord and began discussing Legends. I kept going down my timeline deciding to skip the X-Wing series until a group in the Discord would occasionally chant until I finally broke down and read it. I wasn't sure how I was going to enjoy it, but it was a very fun read. The first half was admittedly slightly generic, but the second half of the book really grabs interest. Once you get invested into the characters, it's such a fun time and a great intro to the X-Wing series. One of the main characters being named Gavin doesn't hurt either.
Yes, Gavin
Yeah.
Darklighter.
Dude,
Gavin Darklighter.
I totally
haven't read
get
it, so I
that,
don't know.
man.
Yeah.
Whenever you see a character who has your name, there's just something special about it, and I like. That's my goal, and I'm manifesting this.
How
And
many-
Sometimes
How
What do
many
you
books are in the X-Wing series?
not.
9,
Nine?
7, 7, 9,
Oh,
something like
man.
that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9.
Yeah,
Let's say 9.
Niner. Wow, that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah. No, I listened to this one recently too. I told you guys about.
yeah, the new one.
And yeah, the new version. So are they saying did they mention the audiobook? No, he just said he said
Nope,
he read
just
it.
read
right?
it.
Say read
Yeah.
it.
So they re-released these,
Like a
right?
man.
This is one of the Essential
Yep.
Legends collections or something,
Mhm.
right? Is that what they're called? Essential Legends collections.
Legend
Something like-
Legends Collection. Yep.
Yeah. And they redid the audiobook, right? An unabridged audio production. It was very, very good. And I think 3 stars. I would probably agree with that, to be honest. Like I thought it was really good. It's very technical. Stackpole is somewhat of a technical writer, and I personally can't really picture like X-Wing fights in my head when they're talking about people flying in directions and on starboard side and all this crap. I'm just like, I'm just basically picturing the movie scenes right in my head. There's a lot of that
Yeah.
in this book. It also definitely reads like it's from the 90s, right? So there's some borderline inappropriate stuff in there. I will say that Corin Horn is a much more tolerable character in this book. Although he does still comment on someone's cleavage, which made me very uncomfortable when I was listening to it.
Yeah,
So
Corin Horny. Like, there's a little
Exactly.
bit of it now and then.
Exactly.
And as Gavin said in the chat, Timothy guessed it, and Gavin confirmed it. Shout out to our very own Mike and Skooma Joe in our Discord for bullying you into reading that. You know
Good
what? That's what friends are for. That's what friends are for.
That's
what we're
right.
doing.
That's right.
But if your friends are bullying you into reading Star Wars books, go find that book on utini.com and scroll down to the bottom of the complete book details, book profile, leave a star rating, leave a review, and you may make it on this very show. All right, we're going to take a quick break to show you some clips from our other live shows we got on this network. And when we get back, we're going to dive into the first 4 spoiler-filled episodes of Star Wars Visions. Be right back.
Darth Vader lightsaber lamp, and I just like I just knocked over everything in my office so I could get this into the camera shot. I knocked one of the posters off the wall.
Anderson cover. I have
Yeah.
heard the Anderson cover described by some friends of mine as one of their least favorite Legends covers, and I don't totally know why. Maybe it's just because Depa Balaba has this dead stare in the background.
You know what it is?
Emma, what is your art of the week this week?
Yeah, so I don't have anything as dark and depressing as that corpse, but
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If you're here, you've watched Star Wars Visions, or you're not gonna watch Star Wars Visions. Either one's fine. But what we're gonna do tonight is talk about the latest animated project from Disney Lucasfilm and talk about what we liked about it, what episodes we may not have liked as much, kind of summarize them and do a mini version of Bounty Hunt. If you liked our recap shows on Mandalorian and Clone Wars and Bad Batch and wow, there's a lot of Star Wars TV shows. What a time to be alive. That's what we're doing tonight. So to start off, basically, if you have not watched Visions, and again, you don't care about being spoiled, I've said it enough times, we're moving on. This was an initiative that was 9 shorts that were made by Japanese anime studios. They were given no boundaries. They were all hired by Disney and said, all right, make a Star Wars story the way you want. Doesn't have to fit in the canon, doesn't have to fit in the Legends. It can just be that. We got 9 of them. They range from about 14 to 23 minutes apiece. And tonight, we're going to talk about just the first 4. So, gentlemen, let's just start off basically saying, for the first 4 episodes, how'd you like them as a whole? How do you think they worked?
I think I think it's like straight down the middle. I think like of all the episodes, not even just the first 4, I think I could probably say I really, really enjoyed about half. I mostly enjoyed maybe 25%, and like I probably didn't really like the other 25%. Like I don't know what actual numbers comes out to be that, but that sounds about right in my head.
That's math.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Something like that.
I guess I was kind of on the same spectrum there. So spectrum. There was one I wasn't really thrilled with. One that completely threw me for a loop. Had no idea that's what I was what I was about to watch in the beginning. One that I loved, and then one that was just so, but it was good. But yeah, they were all fun. They were all something I've never thought Star Wars would do, and I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they really did it.
Totally. Charles?
There was only one out of the 9 that I would say that I disliked. Beyond that, I really enjoyed all of them. Spoiler, that one that I disliked is one that we're going to talk about tonight. and then there were a couple that honestly just like blew me away with how good they were. And I was sitting there and it ended and I was like, there's got to be more. Like there has to be a follow-up to this.
What about you, Eric?
I'm similar in the way that like there was probably I like tiered them, right? So I think that as far as like tier 1, there's probably like about 4 or so, and then my tier 2 were probably about 2, maybe 3, and then the last 2 or 3 were like a tier 3. But yeah, spoiler for me, 2 of them we're going to talk about tonight were tier 1 that just blew my socks off. And it was interesting because there was a lot of talk about we need sequels to this, we need sequels to this. And as we talk tonight, I think I'll realize that some of them, obviously, we got a pretty decent sequel to. But others, I'm going to be like, it's kind of beautiful that they just made them. Yeah. That they exist as a short. They created a universe, they told a story, and they got out. And some were very successful. But I think regardless, this kind of storytelling initiative is such a grand departure from the canon focus that we've had for the last couple of years, which I also enjoy quite a bit. It was something I never expected to like as much as I did. And I was really glad to just have the episodes to be like, oh, I watched like 2 in the morning before work. I watched like 1 on my lunch, and then I watched like a couple after work. It was just a really nice way to view them.
Yeah, these could easily live in an alternate universe, right? If you believe in alternate universes, this is a different alternate universe of Star Wars, especially with the duel, because that could be a whole another like storyline of Jedi.
And you know that like that's kind of like one of the interesting things about anime is like they, a lot of shows and sort of studios, like I guess something I'm thinking of specifically, probably what I have the most experience with in anime in general is like the Studio Ghibli or Ghibli. I think you actually say Ghibli, but I refuse to say that. The Studio Ghibli films, right? Like, Kiki's Delivery Service, Howl's Moving Castle, like those types of movies.
Mononoke,
yeah, Princess Mononoke. My wife is like really into those films. Ponyo. So I've like seen almost all of them, and they're all kind of weird, and they sort of seem like they're in a universe like of their own, right? And like this felt odd that like we're seeing Star Wars themes, like, but obviously in some weird alternative universes, which was super interesting. It felt like an experiment too, a little bit. Like, is that what this is? Are they testing the waters to see if they want to do a full production? Is that what this is, or is this just a one-off fun project?
I mean, it's a great question, and I think, the no fun answer is that it all depends on the numbers and the money, right? Like that is just how many people watched it, and like how many did people watch the featurettes? Like I haven't watched the featurettes that are on Disney Plus for each episode yet, purely because I watch a lot of stuff while I'm doing other tasks and they're subtitled, which is great, but I got to focus a little more. Yeah. And it's like, okay, do people watch those or not? Do people watch all of them or not? Do people watch certain ones more than others? I think there's definitely board meetings that are happening about all of that.
Sure.
There's some good insight on StarWars.com in our description. That's what is it? Star Wars Vision's filmmaker focus. So good. If you check out that article, it'll give you like some behind the scenes on some of the shorts that you've already seen. So you don't have to have the time to watch all those, and you can go in and just get a quick glimpse.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do now tonight, after that kind of basic overview, we're going to go through the first 4 episodes. We're going to show you a glorious poster. They've been putting out a lot of cool fan-made posters and official posters for these. We're going to show you some art. Then we'll do like a brief, 1 to 10 ranking as we are want to do, and then we'll just chat about it a little bit. And if you're in the comments, if you want to throw out your ranking, if you want to throw out your thoughts about it, let us know what you thought. Join in the conversation. We would love that. So, Episode 1, probably the one we all knew the most about going into this, is The Duel, which was by the studio Kamikaze Douga. And this was the inspiration and prequel to the upcoming Ronin novel. Get your pre-orders in. It releases next week. And the one-sentence tag is: a wandering stranger with a mysterious past defends a village from powerful bandits. And we had that striking fan image of the Ronin with his red lightsaber. Gents, let's just go around. Charles, let's start with you. 1 to 10 on The Duel.
The Duel, I will probably give a 7 out of 10. It was really, really solid. I enjoyed it a lot. But there were some others that I place above it, so I got to leave some room there in my rating.
All right, fair. Wes, how about you?
I give The Duel an 8.9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I thought the animation style was super cool. Very, very reminiscent of of the Red and some other kind of comic book type artistry. So yeah, 8.9 for me.
Great. Corey?
I would give it an 8.5. I really like that one too. I mean, I thought it, there's lots of different ways to, where does your ranking come from, right? I mean, I think kind of how we do our books, right? Originality, plot, characters, that type of stuff, right? The art style was super weird, unique, and interesting for sure. I mean, the fact that it was kind of like black and white, except for like lightsaber colors and a couple other cool things. That was sick. I'm a big fan of that. The animation was a little hard to follow at times, but that was kind of the point, right? When a lot of motion is happening.
Sketchy.
Yeah, you can't really see what's happening. But I enjoyed it a great deal. I liked that it wasn't too chatty. Like there wasn't a lot of talking. It was just samurai action. So I think solid 8.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go 9.4 for this one. Oh, and Tom in chat, great point, man. Shout out to Daz Tibbles for that fan poster. This was one of those that wasn't on StarWars.com, but if you've been following on Twitter, Daz has been doing so much amazing fan art that's been getting retweeted all over the place. This
Very
one,
Star Wars name.
Yeah, right. Daz Tibbles could absolutely be on a ship. Yeah, what did I say? 9.3 for this one? Probably 9.4-ish. Like, I love this one. This one was, as Charlie and I were watching it, she was like, this is like very Kurosawa. And I think it is the most classic Kurosawa samurai film of them all. Like, the stranger walks into town and he has the tea boiling and there's bandits. And like, it's just very, very much what you would think of this initiative would be. And I think there's a reason this was the one that was kind of like the poster child for the initiative. It got the book Ronin, obviously. And for full disclosure, I had read probably about half of Ronin when I watched The Duel. So I already knew what was going to happen. Yeah. And which is an interesting way to watch it. But I just loved the animation style and how even in the still moments, the sketch, like the lines on the characters were still kind of jittering a little bit. Yeah. And I just loved the use of motion. The action itself was like realistic in a Star Wars way. Like, oh yeah, you're using the Force. You can jump all over the place. You can do whatever you want. And I mean, there's a Doug in a flying machine with blasters and a lightsaber umbrella. Like, it was wild.
Big fan of the villain, I would like to say.
Who is Kuru, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She gets
You're
named.
supposed to like hit the R. Tom talked about this. It's technically pronounced like
Kuru. Kuru.
No, like that.
Kuru. Yeah. Kuru is a great character. Her design. I saw this really cool TikTok earlier this week that talked about the use of high heels in Visions on how it's never used to objectify for the male gaze, because Kuru comes out in high heels and it's just like, I am powerful and will kill everyone, and I want to wear stilettos.
I know. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, ooh, she's gonna be scary.
Yeah,
like immediately as soon as she's in the heels.
She used her umbrella attachment on her lightsaber and shoved it through a guy. and
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
opened
and
it
then
up at
opened
the
it.
end.
I know.
That's
That was
that's
sick.
a great point. The umbrella was closed, meaning she didn't
Yes.
stick the hot blade through this guy. She stuck the whole metal umbrella.
What a way to go, man. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
she
she
was really
just spun
scary.
it.
Music.
She just spun it at the end.
Yeah.
The music, yeah.
The music when she came out of the ship was a little bit reminiscent of like the Marauders with kind of the
Oh,
vocals.
yeah.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
Great
loved
comparison.
that song.
Like that kind of deal?
Yeah,
Yes.
I noticed that
Yeah.
too. Actually, for a second, I really thought that it was that music. But then I
Yeah.
realized it's original, and I'm totally with you. Yeah, she was really, really cool. I mean, like one of the most creative uses of a lightsaber I've ever seen too. Like that weird doesn't really make a lot of sense, but was also kind of done really, really well. Like, famously the helicopter lightsabers from Rebels have gotten a lot of sort of negative press. I
You love
think,
those,
and
Corey.
I hate those so much. It's not even like it could have been cool, but it wasn't.
And here is how it is cool.
Yes,
This is how you do
and
it.
this is like this weapon makes no sense that it exists. Like, why would you need an umbrella lightsaber like this? And it like detaches, right? Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine like, having to carry around this giant metal thing all the time? Just like, yeah, it's crazy. But I thought it was cool and it worked really well and felt very anime and professional, and I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, like the shot when the Ronin catches the blade and then the unsheathing of the lightsaber, how it like he pulls it out slowly as the camera pulls back, so it just elongates everything, and she's like, "The lightsaber blade is red," and you're like,
Yes,
"Yeah,
I
it is."
know.
Oh my
It is.
goodness!
I will say there are several episodes of Star Wars Visions that really stand out with their creative storytelling, where things happen and you're just not expecting them to at all. And I think this particular episode had a number of scenes in it that were incredibly unique and interesting. The lightsaber design, the way he caught the blade, we've never seen that before. We see it in the trailer for Star Wars: The Old Republic. In the there's a little duel between Satali Shan and I forget what that guy's name, Darth Malgus.
Malgus.
Yeah, and he like hits her with the lightsaber, and she catches it like with her palms or whatever. And he caught that with the Force, was super sick.
And Ray and Kylo do like the little like hold thing, but he like catches it like between his hands,
Yes,
like
catch
it's like
it between his
fly.
hands. Yeah,
and just
then
has that calm face.
then the red lightsaber. Like I was a huge fan of him having a red lightsaber. Like that totally took me off guard. Wasn't expecting that at all. Really, really cool.
For more description on why that's important, pre-order Star Wars Visions Ronin, which tells you all about why that's a thing. And the
remember
first two
when we
chapters
were-
of this book are this episode, which is very cool.
I remember we were going through this a couple weeks back. We were like, what do we think Vision's going to be? And we should put up all those new screenshots. And we were talking about the various like stormtrooper helmets, how like there only a jaw was shown, only like half the helmet was shown. And that's
right.
because those raiders, they told the story in the episode itself. They said there was a old Imperial outpost like on the other side of the mountain that it had been raided. And they had taken all the stuff there and basically used it as their own and then made it as their own.
Yep.
So that's why you have these raiders or you have these like hunters that run in there and then have unique stormtrooper and like garb on. So that was super
just
cool to
rad.
see. Yeah, it was cool to know exactly where that came from.
I will also say Hat Droid is getting all the attention. There's not nearly enough attention about Gonk T Droid. Oh, justice for T making Gonk Droid.
For sure. For sure.
He was also
And
tremendous.
speaking of Hat Droid, he basically saves the day using the Mandalorian's whistling birds.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh, this droid has a silly straw hat and a lot of missiles.
That was awesome. That was so cool.
And-
So cool.
Speaking of the Kurosawa thing, I know we've mentioned it's black and white, but I also want to point out the fact that there's actual like little imperfections that they layered onto it. Like if you're watching old physical film, how those little imperfections will happen. and you'll see him kind of flash across the screen, and like they actually took the time to put that in, which was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. I like
Intentional imperfections are such an
Nostalgic.
odd thing in modern media.
Yeah,
Because like
yeah.
there's so many digital shots that they're like, oh, we need to make it look like it's on film, which takes so much longer, but it is still cheaper than shooting on film.
that. Like,
Yes.
did you ever do like a project in school where you had to make your like a piece of paper look old, so you like burn the edges
Oh,
with
yeah.
a
Oh,
lighter? you know?
absolutely. Are you kidding? I
So
love
that-
that stuff.
That's kind of like what they did.
Put it in lemon
after
juice
the
for a
fact.
while. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we've also starting off great. I think the Duel was also a great episode to start for
Sure.
everyone. If you just hit play on Disney Plus, I think it's
Yeah.
a great first one. So then, a controversial one that let's get into it. Episode 2, Tatooine Rhapsody by Studio Colorido. A couple fun facts about this one. This features the voice acting talents, and also did you guys all watch the English dub version? I didn't
Yes.
watch the Japanese. Okay.
Yes,
didn't.
yes.
Um,
I watched the Japanese for the Duel, which was
Oh.
probably the perfect one to watch it for, and then
didn't
I
want to
watched
find the
English
time.
for the next two, next three.
Okay, rad. So the English version of this features the voice acting talents of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and then Star Wars veterans Bobby Moynihan from Star Wars Resistance and Saturday Night Live, Tamira Morrison himself as Boba Fett, and Mark Thompson also had a little bit in this.
Fantastic for Mark.
Yeah, I love. Can we bring up this poster of this? Because I think the visual language of this particular episode is kind of all within the poster shot. This is the main character just jumping off a stage with his guitar as lights blare. Because, as IMDb tells us, this episode is about a band with big dreams must save one of their own from Jabba the Hutt and Boba Fett. Very great one-sentence line. Let's go in reverse order this time. Corey, how would you rate this 1 to 10?
Man, how brutal were you going to be here?
Let's go for it.
I did not enjoy this at all. In
All
fact,
right.
I had Caitlin. I know. Caitlin actually had a lot to say about it for me, which we'll get into here in a second. But I think I would give this like a 2 or 3.
Wow!
Yeah, pretty dang low. Pretty dang low. Apologies.
Oh my gosh, you are not invited to the mosh pit.
I know,
Wes,
I
how about
know.
you?
I will give it I'll give it a 6 mainly for originality.
Totally.
Yeah, this is the one I was saying that I did not expect this whatsoever.
No,
whenever
how
it started.
could you?
I mean, totally threw me for a loop. So I was like,
Yeah.
I can dig it because it's so different.
Totally. Charles.
So when I read the description for this episode, I was also skeptical. But bands have been a part of Star Wars since A New Hope, and Jabba's connection to them, to hit bands
That's
in particular,
true.
has been a thing since Max Rebo. Guys, this episode was one of my top 3. I will give this an
No
8.8
way.
out of 10.
You
100%.
gotta be kidding me. All right.
It
all right,
was
I'm ready.
so
I'm excited to talk
cool
about it.
and different and fun. It was everything I wanted Visions to be.
That's awesome. Oh, all right. So 2 things on
Eric?
that. Number 1, Jabba the Hutt totally has a Microsoft Zune. You can't tell me otherwise. Number 2, I will get this like a 7.8. Honestly, I
Wow.
really I enjoyed. Again,
Am I
I think
off the
it's
show now?
No. So I watched this twice because I watched them all by myself, and then during the night, Charlie was working when I was watching them, so we went back and watched them again. And on second watch, it was that kind of thing of like, this is a fun emo band just doing their thing. Now, was it silly if they were all like this? Do I want that? No,
Yeah,
absolutely
right.
not.
Yeah.
But in a similar way, I thought it was a fun examination of the music of Star Wars. It was ridiculous. That Hutt had emo black hair and a studded cuff
And a nose ring.
and a nose ring. Like, it is the most ridiculous
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
But Charles, you gave this the highest rating of us. So, kind of walk us through what did you specifically love about the episode? What were some moments you really dug? And do you still have that song in your head?
Pun intended.
So I guess some of the highlights. Well, I just really liked the music aspect of it. I don't know why. Like, it's one of those things, like I said, that's always been a part of Star Wars, but we've never really spent that much time unpacking that. Like, there
You
are
are
hit bands, right?
Yeah, is that?
Yes, I love that. Actually, funnily enough, the Boba Fett inclusion in the episode was probably my least favorite part of it. I loved hearing Tamara Morrison, but seeing him defeated by the flame-throwing guitar of the Hutt, I was like, this feels a bit inconsistent. But I mean,
Let's rock,
the
man.
uniqueness of it. The three torsoed drummer, like which one gets to face forward? How'd they rock, paper, scissors that one? The flashback to actually him becoming a part of the band, falling into that ship and meeting the Hutt and getting helped up. I actually found that really touching. I loved going back to Boonta Eve Stadium. Like that was
that was
of course.
Not
Why
excited
did I think about that?
That camera swoop in that they did
It was
right
so
when they showed
cool.
it.
The 3D stuff
that
they
was
did.
really cool.
The song they played was absolute fire. And I think the icing on the cake for me was the shot from behind of Bib and Jabba and Boba watching the concert and Jabba's little tail tapping to the song. I loved that.
Now that you say that though, like I don't know how I think about this. I wish at Boonta Eve it would have been like, well, here we have Star Waver, they're the new band for Jabba. I wish it had been the same dudes. That would have been great.
Yeah, well, so did you notice the Wilhelm scream they threw in there at the beginning?
Yes,
whenever they threw off one of the
fight.
I missed that.
one of the bounty hunters off the stage, the Wilhelm scream is thrown in there. But that song that they played at Mos Espa at the Booty Classic, 100% would have been on an American Pie soundtrack. That's what, like, easily, no problem.
Oh man,
There's
funny.
something to that.
Well, I'm gonna have to rewatch it then for sure and give it a higher rating.
Corey, you can't talk about
It's
this episode
silly.
because you gave it such a crap rating, all right? Will you just let us talk about it?
Well, you've already mostly convinced me. I mean, I was telling you, my wife had a lot of interesting things to say. She's watched a lot more anime than me, and there are like there's several recurring themes that are in a great deal of anime, right? Like, and one of them is music, right? There's this weird, there's this weird sort of obsession with like this sort of punk rock-esque genre of music. Like there's a reason that so many like anime, like they all sound exactly the same, the intros. Like it's like alternative rock, and like somebody is like
Naruto had a new opening song and closing song like every half season, but they were all like
it's all like that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's true.
Demon Slayer.
True. It's true. So I mean, it is appropriate. This is like, there's other themes like school. School is really important to like Japanese and anime and stuff. And there's always lots of school themes, and I don't know. So like, I get it, right? I do get the inclusion of the whole band thing. Just I don't know. I'm kind of with you about like about Boba Fett being included was kind of weird.
Yep.
Like the whole intro in the beginning in general didn't really make any sense. He just fell in that ship, and then the clone just gave up chasing him. I mean, I don't know. That
Order
didn't really make a lot of
66.
sense. Whatever.
The story itself, like they win Gee's like life by playing a song. It's like, hey Jabba, we're gonna be the best band in the galaxy, and you're gonna be our sponsor, right? And he was just like, didn't say a word, and some little girl was just like, one more song.
I know.
All right, let him live. Let him live.
I know, dude.
You know what it reminded me of? It was like, so Alex in the chat thought it was Star Wars Green Day, which absolutely.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
This reminded me of kind of like an 80s cartoon in a way of like, we're going to defeat the aliens with the power of rock and roll and friendship.
That's exactly how it was.
Like the Kiss, the Kiss cartoon or whatever.
Yeah, where they showed up on Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
it's how it was.
Very weird
like
going
School
from
of
the
Rock
Jewel to
vibes.
this.
Yes, I maybe that's part of it. I was just like, it was utterly shocking going from that like really serious classic
Lightsabers,
samurai classic,
That's fair.
and like I don't know, it just hit me hard. I really didn't like how the Hutts looked. I had no idea that the guy was a Hutt until it showed Jabba, and he also looks the same. Like he doesn't look anything like a Hutt. His eyes are in the wrong place. Like he has hair. Like what the hell?
There's a shot of him.
They're smooth. Ew, they look gross.
It's like smooth Yoda.
There's a shot of him when they when they crash the ship and he's laid out. He's just like laid out on his back with his like slug tail hanging off the side. It looks
Watch
really
him
strange.
At the end when they're playing the song, he's like rolling on the ground and flipping up while playing the guitar. We've never seen a Hut move like that.
You know
That's
what? It is not the texture that Diego Luna wants to touch. You
He's
know
a
what I
young
mean? He
Hutch.
wants actual job. So
All right, I'm gonna watch it again. I'll give it a higher rating. It's probably not actually a 2.
He's got
Corey's
sweet
got to
hair.
jump in the Discord after the show and be like, actually, this is worse than I ever thought. This is the one, you animals.
Probably.
So moving on to that, another episode that actually has been decently contentious, which also I think that a lot of the episodes have gone back and forth on as far as online discourse goes, which I think is the sign of a very interesting project. So The Twins, this was by Trigger, was the studio, starring Neil Patrick Harris and Allison Brie, two extraordinarily famous people. And the quote is, "The twins born into the dark side clash aboard a massive Star Destroyer." All right, folks, you know how this goes. Charles, 1 to 10.
So this one was my least favorite of all 9 episodes. I would probably give this one a 4 out of 10. And I'll just go ahead and say my piece on it, and then I'll shut up and y'all can tell me why I'm wrong. It was cool. The animation style in particular was very cool, but it felt like this alternate universe, almost like rehash of the most basic ideas in Star Wars to me. Like there was the male-female twins, a black armor-clad villain in a cape, planet-destroying super weapon, twin sons at the end. Even the droid that looked like R2 was called R-Duo.
Yeah.
And while some people may have found that like a fun spin, it just felt very derivative to me.
Yeah. I will also echo that and give this one a 4 for all of the same reasons. I mean, my wife said something very, very similar when we were watching it together about something like, this is just, they just borrowed everything. Like it was almost like, I think it was almost like the creators were familiar with Star Wars, but they'd only seen it once or twice. That's how it felt, like weirdly, because there was a C-3PO character, right? I will say they took a lot of creative liberties, I think, with Star Wars, what is possible and what isn't possible in Star Wars,
like space.
Yeah,
like
kind of too far, I think. Like everything they did with the hyperdrive didn't make any sense at all. Like we'll get into some of that here, I think, in a second. But like, space. Big problem with space. The droid was the only one wearing a spacesuit, which makes no damn sense whatsoever.
The C-3PO droid, the protocol droid, is wearing a helmet at the end to save the human not wearing a helmet floating in space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll echo both what Charles and Corey said. I agree. There was really no originality in it, and I'm kind of big on originality and creativity. There was a couple creative scenes in there. I thought it was interesting because I thought I was looking at an adaptation of Kylo Ren to begin with, and then I was like, oh wait, that could be Darth Vader. They're just doing a different
or is it Luke, or is it Leia? Like what the hell is happening?
Or is it Luke? And then we're going twin sisters, twin siblings. So is it Luke and Leia rehash? What is this? But yeah, it was very confusing. Yes, the space thing is what got me. I mean, they've been fighting outside of the ship the entire time.
He was talking. He was surfing on an X-wing. Like, what the flying hell is that?
Exactly. And they were like, and his ship was an X-wing, right?
Yes.
Isn't that like a sign that he's going to be switching sides really soon?
Yes.
Eric.
Eric,
so
give it a 9.
No, I dug this one pretty good. It's funny. This is mostly what I've been hearing about this one. Is you three are absolutely the majority of the thoughts about it. I guess I'm like an 8.2. I had a great time with this one.
Jesus.
But here's why. But nothing that you're saying is actually wrong, in my opinion. Like I hear everything you're saying. I'm like, yeah. But yeah. So like in a way of like, yeah, he surfed on an X-wing. Yeah, of course. And they didn't have any things in space. Yeah, I know. Like. So suspend the disbelief on all of those things, right? The couple of things you can't get away from at all is it explained the entire backstory weirdly in the episode, right? They had to explain everything because it didn't make any sense, right? So they've been raised in the dark side, born in the dark side. They're both evil twins, and one of them suddenly isn't. Also, he has an X-wing. Like,
What?
Corey, you
think
should
for- I
like
think
the
that-
born
Also,
from
he
the
has an
dark
X
side
wing.
thing. It was very, it was very
I think
Vegas.
this one
I
for
did
me,
like
I
that.
don't think I cannot go beat for beat and tell you what happened in it and what the things were. It was mostly, I think the visuals for this one were so much fun for me. Like the fact that we're surfing on an X-wing and we have a lightsaber powered by the speed of a hyperdrive is insane, and also the most just like anime. It's like, what's a Super Saiyan? How is a dragon as big as a galaxy? Like, this is where we go to that level of like, we can't breathe, but also we're like, and I was like, sure. So I completely get all the criticism of it as far as like, even this Tatooine Rhapsody has like a little more consistency in its logic. The duel is obviously a much more hyper realistic kind of thing. Makes more sense. I did like that one better. This one, though, I enjoyed it for the pure, unadulterated chaos and kind of nonsense that it was. And if that's not your bag, it's not your bag.
There was
Totally
a couple.
legit.
There was a couple things that I really did like about the episode that I thought were interesting creative liberties. Like I like the fact that they did the twins thing, and like that sort of twins imagery was kind of throughout the episode, right? Like when the episode opened, we saw two hallways next to each other.
Yep.
Like the two Star Destroyers. Although I wasn't crazy about how simply they did it with just two Star Destroyers. Literally looks like they set up next to each other with a cannon in the middle. That was kind of weird, but the
It's a
idea.
heavy cannon. You need 2 ships for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
The idea of two Star Destroyers being connected is super interesting
by
to
a bridge,
me.
yeah.
And then lastly, I think maybe my favorite aspect about this entirely was the use of kyber crystals and having like corruption with the abuse of the power was very interesting idea, right? It's like, like can a Jedi or a Sith or anybody that's in tune with the Force, can you sort of not just harness like the force energy of a kyber crystal, but can it like hurt you, right? Can you like get too into it where it overpowers you in some way? What can kyber crystals do? So, you guys know we love crystal lore on this show. We've talked about that a lot in the past. So I thought that was really cool. The fact that they somehow harness kyber crystals in like some kind of weird suit was cool.
Yeah. Powers their suit and this giant weapon that like kills star systems,
right?
But not your body.
No.
Yeah, very much like, but like mech
not your
suits,
high
speaking of, like,
heels.
He ripped off that suit like within an instant. He was like, I don't want this thing anymore. And it all comes off. Really,
It's like, is this a Chicago Bulls warm up? I don't know.
he had a tear away Darth Vader suit.
Exactly.
Can I say one more thing that really bothered me about it? Then I'll say something that I liked to end on a high note for me. When she goes, where do you think you're going with that crystal? And he goes, to a galaxy far, far away.
My
I was
God.
like, no.
That was dumb. That was so dumb. Like,
that really bothered me.
I really do not
It bothered me.
enjoy meta Star Wars stuff, right?
Yes.
Like you put the
and
galaxy
later-
far, far away joke in like Fairly Odd Parents. You don't put it in Star Wars itself,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
When
And
he
I
was
think
surfing
later
the
he
X-wing,
says, there is no try, only do.
Yes,
when
yes,
he's
he
surfing the
said that.
X-wing, he said it.
But-
Yoda says that.
Yes, and he says it better. But the thing that I liked about it, I wanted to say this. There is an example of light side force lightning in here, which I think
Yeah,
is
that
a
was
pretty
cool.
cool idea. When they're fighting
cool.
a crystal, it's like red and blue lightning. That was
That is true.
pretty cool.
So Force Lightning is official good guy power, kids. You too can electrocute your enemies, but for good.
I mean, I use it. I use it as a light side character in the KOTOR games all the time, whether
that's
it's
right.
allowed or not. All right,
Great point.
yeah.
All right, let us now. The last one we're gonna talk about tonight. We'll take the second larger half next week. Which, by the way, tune in for that. Even if it's after the Ronin event, the episode that is kind of talked about uniformly as a pretty good one. The Village Bride by, I believe, Kinema Citrus is the studio. It says, a Jedi on the run takes in the unique customs of a remote village under threat by a warlord. This continues the, stranger in a remote village is very much the thing that goes through. Before we get anything about this, let's just do the ratings because I got a lot to say about this one. Charles, 1 to 10.
9.7.
Nice. Wes.
Wow. 7.7.
All right. Corey.
9.5.
9.8.
Interesting, Wes. I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
So I'll start with this one and I'll get my thoughts of the way because I'm also very interested. This this was such a entire story to start with. This I thought was one of the ones that created a universe, maybe the best in its own mythology, other than this one and one we'll talk about next week. I thought was also very good. I thought
It felt
it's
really
visual.
complete. It did feel really
Yes.
complete, like start to finish.
Yep, full story, full mythology, grabbed enough from Star Wars that I could follow some stuff, but also completely its own. Its visuals were a little bit of Studio Ghibli mixed with like classic anime action. I thought the voice acting was incredible. I thought that just the conceit of it all was good. It had quiet moments. It had action. It had bandits. It had Master Padawan. There's just like so much in it at once. This is the one that ended, and I was like, I'm really glad that we're doing this all as individual stories, but oh my sweet lord, do I want more of F and her story. And I like the high heels going into battle mode before she charged through.
That was sick.
Like, come on!
There were a lot of high
heels.
heels. There were a lot of high heels in this. I will say.
Yes, there were.
We
That's my
had
favorite one.
three different episodes with heels as a primary theme. Yeah, I totally agree with all that, Eric. I mean, I thought it was very unique, and the storytelling and tying it all in with nature felt very Jedi-esque, but also we've not really seen a lot of nature with Jedi, right? It's more like being in touch with the Force, but like
They
nature
talk
itself.
about it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I thought it was really cool seeing how the planet sort of changed. Like what was the line? So something like the planet is remembering or something like that, right? Like
the planet's memories.
The planet's memory. That was such an interesting thing, and
it's like Frozen. Water has memory.
Yeah.
Frozen 2.
Yeah.
Hashtag Disney money. Hashtag Disney shills.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
well, speaking of that, the memory part of it, the culture that they managed to show us from this planet and to be able to naturally display that, I was really impressed by, because it didn't feel forced. Like it all felt like it just made sense to be learning about this as we went.
Right.
And the couple actually in their customs reminded me a bit of Thane and Sienna. Actually,
me
from
too, actually.
Lost Stars, especially
wow.
that memory of them seeing themselves as kids playing in the river. I was like, wow, this feels just like them.
Yeah.
That's cool. I was a really big fan of the custom stuff in general of this episode, which felt very Japanese, right? Very anime.
it did.
We see that in a lot of anime, that like you just have to accept what the customs are because it's not really explained, right? They're always burning things and various like altars and sacrifices and ancestry is always really important in Japanese culture and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's
family,
like
very big family focus in this
family
one.
stuff, sacrifice. Like there was just a lot of like very anime elements that you see. Like I don't actually know like how big in Japanese culture a lot of those things are, right? Because I'm a white dude, but like like it is it's in a ton of anime, right? It's in a ton of anime, and like I felt like we gathered so much about this little village just from the couple minutes of like little backstory that we got. I mean, it reminded me a lot of the village in The Mandalorian, right? The little farming village.
Oh yeah, sure.
But like we also we didn't really learn much about the culture in that, right? So like I felt I don't know. I was a big fan of all the backstory that went into this. The combat was sort of an afterthought, like the very end of the episode, but big fan of that.
And also this was so much shorter than that Mandalorian episode, and I agree. I also think it did it better. Wes, why'd you hate this so much?
First of all, if you've already forgotten, I gave it a 7.7. The whole concept may have blown over my head though, is you have to give yourself up as collateral. Collateral for what? Did they lose that in translation or something? Like she had to give herself up. Well, first the grandfather, the chief, had to give himself up as collateral. So
the separatists would stop killing them.
Right. So what is he going to do? He's just going to sit on their ship, or is he going to kill, or is the separatist going to kill him as a sacrifice?
I think they were going to keep someone from the village who was important to the village so that the villagers would not try to fight back against them. Yeah. So they would never even have to have that battle.
Yeah.
To just have
also, there's battle droids in this episode. Tim made a great point. We mentioned it's separatist. Like this is the one that I'm like, this could actually be in canon.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of, because it's the Clone Wars. Doesn't have to be, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. So the whole concept itself of giving yourself up as collateral to save your village, I guess. So you're sacrificing yourself, but you're not actually dying.
Not necessarily.
No.
Not necessarily.
giving
It
up
could be
your
a,
life.
could be a
Not the vibe we got.
prisoner.
Giving
Could
up
be a
your
prisoner, I
life.
suppose. Yeah.
Okay.
If we want to talk about that, let's talk about how messed up it was that the village chief let his granddaughter.
Yeah, he was just
He
eating.
was just at that feast.
He was just eating.
a
I mean,
chicken
she
leg.
wants to, so.
Yeah, she can go. That's fine.
The one thing that I did find funny was when he was like, "Would you like a drink?" and he offered a drink to the older gentleman, the older wanderer, and then he offered a drink to the Jedi, and he was like, and then he took a sip, and he was like, "This drink isn't strong enough." And then this giant woman comes over and is like, "I'm so sorry about this guy right here."
That
Dude, be cool.
was
That woman was so
hilarious.
random.
And also when he was like,
giant.
when he was offering F a drink and she has this giant face mask on, he's like, can you she's like, yeah, I would like one. Oh, no,
Do you-
sorry, I just want
Do
the
you need,
mask.
you need a straw? I mean, we can hook you up. Yeah.
And one thing I love too about this one,
The
I think
sister, too.
the first time we see force powers used in these is always a cool thing, because you know when the blaster gets shot and then it just hovers and then the slow pan up to see her mask off, just extending the hand. At that moment, I was like, oh, they're like all dead.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
She has said nothing, but now the mask is off. The heels are in Crocs. Like, you know when people put their Crocs and they put them in like active mode? They're like, I'm gonna mess people up and I'm gonna take out my katana. That was it.
That's such a stupid TikTok trend right now. Have you not heard of that
before?
Yeah, it's a
I've
stupid
never heard
TikTok
of that.
trend right now. They put their Crocs on. You know, everybody wears their Crocs as flip flops, right? Like, or yeah, and it's like some crazy shit's about to happen. So they like take the little band off the front and fold it back, so it'll hook on to the back of their foot, right?
Crocs are in battle mode.
That's so dumb.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Oh, hey, our own Caroline in the chat makes a great point. Moment we kind of briefly mentioned when it zooms in on her husband's fists like clenching to know that he didn't like the plan, but he like had to go with it. There's a lot of really good nonverbal cues in this episode as well. More talking than the duel, but still taking the time to show that to
Yeah.
go back and forth was really key and kind of really elevated this one.
Yeah.
I like
So
that.
what did she mean when she said, "I will not be alone"?
That was metaphorical,
She said-
I think.
Yeah. Kind of the vibe I got.
You gotta watch more anime, Wes. A lot of this kind of stuff is just really throughout.
All right.
You can't ask questions
Yeah.
about it. Like I think that's what's weird and unique about it. Is like it's just implied. There's a lot of that in anime and Japanese culture, from what I can gather. Is like tradition outweighs logic a lot of times, right? And
Yep.
that's
Yes.
just kind of what they do, I guess. Like in this,
And sometimes the
this
hero has
village.
to fight against it, or the hero embraces it, and that's got the journey. And I think that F kind of finding that balance of like, you know, I'm a Jedi, I observe, but there is a line. And I think that was the nice thing of like, I'm not going to offend these people, but nope, we always defend the innocent, even if it's at the expense of our own, you know, revealing
got-
ourselves.
You have to talk about the bucket rocket that guy threw off of.
Oh
the,
yeah,
that
his
guy
little
threw off
helmet.
of the ridge.
his
and-
helmet rocket. That was great.
And he was able to apparently dodge all that fire by not even moving. Like dodged
by
all
slowly
those
backing up.
blasters and didn't even move.
Okay, you can't have a problem with that after
Another
watching A
thing,
New
this
Hope
is why I gave it
ever.
a 7.7. You need to explain this to me.
Dude, can I just say, artistically speaking, like visually, I found this to be one of the most striking, especially
Yeah.
some of those moving shots that you're talking about
Yeah.
in that fight at the end. But also the music. Again, I got to bring up the music. I get literal
my
chills
God.
when they first play that. Whenever the Jedi is watching the husband carry his wife up the mountain. I mean,
Yep.
actually gave me chills. It is that good.
And this was I know it was tweeted out, and people in the chat, if you know, let us know. The music for Vision as a whole, I think, was done by a few different people, but this episode specifically was a person that didn't work on anything else, and they only did the soundtrack for this specific episode. And I thought, because you're right, the musical language is so different from any other short, and I think it's more powerful. It's kind of more like a little bit more like Ludwig Göransson from The Mandalorian a little bit. It's a little more impactful in that way. And I just thought this was when I'm like, oh, I need this on Spotify or a vinyl
Yes.
or whatever. Yeah, I love this one, and I thought that it was just a great a great middle too, because you're like, we get our first classic with the duel, and then Tatooine Rhapsody is really weird, and the twins is a little odd, and then we bring it back up with the Village Bride, and then slight spoiler for next week, the Ninth Jedi is the next one, which is also really freaking good. So the ordering of this was really cool, and I know when it was coming out, a few people that had gotten early access were like, hey, watch these in order if you can.
Okay, I was going to ask you that.
Really
Y'all
smart.
have watched them all. Should you watch them episode 1 through 9
Yeah.
and not like,
Yes.
okay.
And this
That's what
morning.
I'd recommend. Yes. Yeah, you
Yes.
did.
Yeah, that's
All
right.
right.
Awesome. Well, guys, as we kind of wrap up tonight, any last thoughts on the first 4 episodes of Visions? We got the next 5 next week. As a reminder, everyone.
I
But
will
yeah, what do you think?
I will say that the progression of the first 4 was a little rocky for me.
Sure.
The duel was very good and interesting. Then we got 2 back-to-back that I would probably go as far to say I did not enjoy, and had me legitimately worried for the rest. Right? Like,
Yeah.
and
Good
then
thing about shorts, though. Tatooine Rhapsody is the shortest one.
it is,
So-
yeah. And then Village Bride happened, and I was like, okay. Okay, here we go.
I'll
here we
keep
go.
going.
All right.
Yes, yes.
hook is still
and,
in.
And
The
I
hook is
will,
still
I
set.
will say the next 5 I really, really loved. Like, it's probably gonna be hard for me to tell you
sick.
what my favorite was. Like next week when we talk, but
I got to rewatch. I'm really excited.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fellas, Charles,
Same
Wes?
here.
Excellent.
Yeah, so well, my favorite right now is The Duel, which is the first one. Just because I loved the anime style, I love the creativity, but I also love the originality. It's from Tatooine Rhapsody. Like I said, it was just I was thrown that that was what the show was actually about. It's about a rock band that saves another Hutt's life because their songs were so great. And then, the third one not so much. We don't really need to get into it, but and even the fourth, the one we just spoke about, the Village Bride, coming around to it, I probably need to watch it for a third time, but I don't know, just it kind of threw me. I did like the whole part where the battle droids were brought in, like how they reprogrammed the battle droids, and how that guy looked like Xerxes from 300.
Oh my God! Yes. Wow. Yes.
I'm excited to watch the last 5 and talk about them next week. So right now the duel is really
so good.
got me for number 1.
On that note, I want to apologize. I want to increase my score for the duel. I gave it a 7. I lowballed that because I knew I was going up from there. I'm gonna increase that to a 7.7. That's what we'll do.
All right.
But I just want to say, I think it's really fun that we're all coming here to the table, and we all are relatively similar. Of course, we have our differences, but we get along super well, and yet we.
I've
approach all
absorbed
these
you all over the
projects-
last 2 years into my personality. Yeah.
Exactly. But we all came to the table here and had some pretty drastically different opinions on these, and that was the whole point of this project, right? Was to just make different stuff for different people to enjoy, and it gives us a chance to practice what we preach in the hey, you don't love something, cool, talk about it with people who did, find middle ground, find something you like, and then move on,
Right.
And it's nice to kind of have the opportunity to do that with this project and hear such different points of view.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And what a beautiful way to use shorts, right? To be like, when you're making a Clone Wars season or you're making a Mandalorian season, we know that, I mean, realistically, there's probably things they want to try that are a little extreme that they're like, we have a whole season. We got to make sure that we still have a basic middle ground of stuff we can do. And we can kind of go outside of the box now and then, but every episode has to still follow kind of a mold, which is great. We like those molds. We love Star Wars. But it's really refreshing to be like, what if every single one could just have 100% stakes? Could be, because the next one, it's going to be totally different. So this one burns. All right. That was 15 minutes of my life, and what a cool way to be able to expand that. And I do hope that Visions keeps going, and I hope they bring in new studios, and I hope they let people try new things, and it just keeps being this kind of anthology thing they're able to do. I think that's just so fun. And if you like this Visions, you know what I'm going to try to do, no promises, look up these studios, see what they've made anime-wise. Like, check out this whole new art style, because, like, it's getting pretty big in the West. I think we all kind of got out of school before the like high school anime craze happened. Like when I was in high school, it was still
Anime
pretty
is
underground.
like-
Now
dude,
it's
anime is mainstream now, which is
It's
crazy.
totally now.
Crazy. Like the biggest thing I had growing up was like Dragon Ball Z was really big when I was really
That was
little.
it.
And like even those kids were sort of ostracized, I think, for liking it, right? So
But now there's a Demon Slayer movie, and it's huge, and it's like Attack on Titan. It gets millions of like, it's crazy stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And they made it in Star Wars. Check out their other stuff. If you did like the Duel, like we all did, for the final time this week at least, make sure you pre-order Ronin. It's coming out next week. It's a book unlike you've ever seen. As usual, on release day next week, there's going to be a written review and a video review from us on that. And if you're liking Visions, go over to our Discord channel, go in the Visions channel, put up your rankings of episodes. Tell us what you're rewatching. Tell us stuff that you've missed. I feel like this is a project that's going to be around for a while, and it's going to be one that, you know what? If you only watch the English, go back and watch the Japanese. Have a lot of fun with it. It's really kind of amazing that something as mainstream as Star Wars did this year, and let's hope that we got a lot more coming. Because, my friends, that's all you got coming tonight, because that will do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. If you support us on Patreon, thank you so much. A reminder to check out the survey coming up this week about Rogue One. Do you want a watch party, or do you want us to record a commentary? We're going to do it. A special thank you goes out to Cheryl Bell, OK Endar, Earl Q, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson, talking a lot about football. Corey is at Doc Star Wars MD. Charles Zetzi Hankel, and Wes is at Boss Wes. A special thank you goes out to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, you producer and community manager, you. Thank you to Corey, Charles, and Wes for podcasting with me tonight. Thanks to all of you for tuning in and watching. And as always, may the Force be with you.